seen that. You've seen this, what I call the paint sticks, or the stick. A bigger one like this I would use to hold the decoy in place if I wanted to hold it up and work on it like this. I've showed you what you can do with a little stick pin. Take it and you stick it right in the center there. You drill a hole up through the bottom of the head so you can place it on and move it around without it falling off. And of course, you know, I leave that in when I glue the head on, because now I've got a little bit of a reinforcing point there that's going to hold that into place for me. So a couple little ideas down just on things like that, simple little things. When you're detailing the feathers on a bird, like you can see on here, there's feathers on there. You can see on one side they're plain, on the other side they got the little splits in them. You can make your splits with these little called, they're graphic pens by a company called Filka or Pika Graphic One. They're archival ink pens. They dry quickly, they're waterproof, and they're nice if you want to put splits in there. You just take your pen and just run your splits in like this. See what I did? I ran those black lines in there on the plain ones. That's how you can create your splits. It's a lot easier than doing it with a pen, with a paintbrush, where you're shaky and you're trying to move like this. This gives you that nice, smooth, straight line. So again, a graphic arts pen comes in handy for you. Another little thing is you get different little files you can buy. These are good. Sometimes you got to get in little tight spots, like maybe under the neck in here. You can just go right in with a file, work yourself around, get that little curve out of there, because you want things. I always talk to you about smoothness and curves. This helps you get that effect. You can get that. I've talked to you about, I'm moving along here because I want to get a lot of this information in. Another tool I use on eyes sometimes is these little handheld augers, where you can position your eye, stick that in there and just start twisting it till you get it into about that point. And then you've got your eye hole already in there. There's all different sizes. You go to these flea markets and you see a whole bunch of these old ones with the tops like that. They're like little miniature augers. They come in very, very handy when you're working on decoys. Another thing I always found interesting is if you're going to do any combing on a decoy, vermiculation they call it, you can actually buy tools where there's different size blades like this that you buy. They come in a kit. There's like 3-4 different sizes here. That's when you vermiculate. Certain ducks have vermiculation on them, canvas backs, scalps. There's like a little rough pattern on the side, wood ducks, things like that. This is a great idea, but if you don't have something like that, you can just use a little cocktail fork. See the tines on there? You just take them and, you pick up your decoy and you put that rough coating on there and you just kind of move down around the sides on it. And you create vermiculation by using this. You take it in, wipe it off, put it in, wipe it off. You can also take a comb and break it into 2-3 sections. There's another way of doing that. Knives, it's always important to keep the knives sharp. So how do you keep your knives sharp? Well, I go to places and I found this old barber strop in a place where it's got leather on one side and the shaving stone or soapstone, they call it, on the other side. And that's a case where you can just kind of work your knife on there on one side and then flip it over to the leather side. And I do this every so often. Every time I use a knife, I stroke it. And that gives you a nice sharp edge on the edge of that knife. It's an old barber tool, even though it's an old barber strap, whatever you want to call it. You can also do that. Another little thing here that's of interest is little skewers. You put an eye in a decoy, and I always showed you that, how you can wipe it down, and then you take a brush and you round it. And then after that sets, you might see that it's not quite round the way you want it. It's a little out of sorts. So you can just take a skewer like this and just kind of wipe it around the perimeter to round it out. What's nice about that, it's wood. It won't scratch the eye. A lot of guys that do it with an X-Acto knife and all, because they always say, well, it's not really an X-Acto knife or a blade that cuts the eye or scratches it. It's sandpaper. Well, you can also do it with a thing like this. Another thing I've done over the years is I've taken a tool as simple as I can find it here. Got so much stuff on here I wanted to show you. A hole puncher. Just as I punch holes out, and I end up with strips like this, where the holes are punched out and they're like that size. Where do they come in handy? As you can see on this decoy, I covered the one eye with it. So when I'm sanding around that eye or even painting around the eye or doing some detail, I don't get paint on the eye. And you just, you punch out that hole, you put it on a piece of release paper, and you got the hole. I also keep that piece of paper and I use it on something like this. This is something I made when I'm doing my eyes. I punch out this piece of tape and I put it on here, and there's always that blue tape, that you see sold that comes off easy. You punch a bunch of holes in here the size of the eyes you're gonna use. See, like you can see I got eyes in here. See the eye? Right here. And you stick them in the hole. Usually they're clear. You stick them in the hole, and then you use an eyedropper. Just a regular simple little eyedropper. You suck your paint up out of the tube. Sometimes a little thinner the better, but you can use it when it's thick. And you just kind of drop it right down on that stem that's sticking up out of there. See the stem sticking up out of there? That's why I always like eyes where I have a stem on them. I cut them off after I do it, but for this purpose, you actually put the drop right straight down the stem. The paint will run down the stem and spread out evenly into the eye and give you the color you want on the eye. So that's what I call just an eye block. So you got a big one that I showed you, that I use for holding paint. Now you got the little one where I use to create and do my eyes. Another little tools you can use is all kinds of little brushes, obviously. You ever see a decoy how the top is a little darker than the sides? See the dark brown on the top and then the sides? Like you can see it on this one too. See, you got brown, then you got the top is dark. How do you get that without really seeing a straight line? And the answer is you stipple it. You do it with a brush like this. These are available in hobby stores. They're very inexpensive. You just take a brush like that, put it in the paint, dry it off a little bit. You don't want it to be too damp or too filled with paint. And you just kind of tap. You just tap down that whole section. You start right in the middle, come all the way across the top, and then branch yourself out a little bit. And again, if you overshoot it, it's no problem because you can come back with your other color and pencil in it. You can use them that wide. You can use them, a little narrower if you want to. You always start in the center, work yourself around, and then come out to your edges. I've even used a flat brush like this because now I've got the option. I've got this width if I do it this way. And the head is curved, so as you're going that way, you can see it's not touching the sides of the head too much. This side is open, this side's open. You're just going down the center with it. And then you come in, then you can angle in on the sides. Or you can just use it this way. Hold it up this way and go right down the center and then kind of edge out to the edges. And again, you do it 3-4 times because you do it with very little paint on it. You almost dry brush the paint off and just touch it in. It'll give a nice blended effect in there. Then you take just a bottle of spray. I've got my wife uses this Tresemme Super Hold. What's nice about it, it's very, very much a mist. You just hit that and it doesn't soak. You can almost see it. See how it's like a mist going through my fingers? You hit the side of the head with that or the top of the head with that, and it just helps that paint flow and work its way down all around. And it just makes for a nice looking decoy. Leather straps that you put on your decoys. I've taken pieces of belts and cut them into straps. I bought pieces of leather, like 4x5, and then just cut my straps out. These are the gunning, if you have a gunning bird, you always have a strap in the front that you secure it to the rig with. Like you see this one, and it's got a weight on the bottom also. So these are just some little tips, little things you can do. A little pair of snips like this, which is good to cut those wires after you put the paint on them. If you want to just take the wire off, you cut it. Because like I said to you, I've put eyes and decoys and had those snips off of there. People bend them sometimes so they have a little anchor inside. I've never had an eye come out because when I put it in, I put a little glue on it. When I put it in, it is in the putty, and then I keep some of the putty goes around the eye. I don't really have the eye fully exposed. It sort of goes around the eye. And then I put sealer on there after that. And then you put your gesso on there after that. Then you put your paint on. Between all those coatings and all, you're really locking that eye into position. So that's just a little point of reference that I think is interesting. And I hope you enjoyed this session. Now I'm sitting here trying to figure out what I do with my clicker so I can turn my video off. I got all these tools laying here on the table, and I'm saying, wow, now what do I do? you know, it's I got to find it so I can stop the video. Okay, keep in touch, and I'll be doing another one very shortly, and then eventually I will get into my painting process on decoys, which isn't anything spectacular or different. One other thing I might mention while I'm trying to find that clicker, it's got to be around here somewhere, is little BBs. You buy BBs sometimes. If you hollow a bird so it floats a little better in the water, you can hear something in there. Those are BBs. I just dropped a couple of BBs in there before I seal it all together. And now I've got me a decoy that's hollow, and I can prove it's hollow because first of all, it's going to be light when you pick it up, but more importantly, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it actually, you know, moving around in there. Okay, that's it for today's session.